Rowan Hale sat in his truck outside the Silver Lantern Grill on December 20th at 6:45, staring at the Christmas lights like they were personally mocking him. He was about 3 seconds away from just driving home and telling his best friend Beck he got food poisoning or literally anything that didn't involve admitting he was too terrified to walk through those doors. Snow was coming down in those big fat flakes that make everything look like a Hallmark movie. Except Rowan's life was definitely not a Hallmark movie, because those don't include an 8-year-old daughter writing letters to Santa asking for someone to make their dad smile again. His phone buzzed with another text from Beck, who'd been harassing him all day. This one said, "You promised, Juniper. Don't make me tell your daughter you're a coward." And Rowan, a black man with deep brown skin and close-cropped hair just starting to show gray at the temples, typed back, "Low blow, man." But Beck just sent the shrugging emoji and, "Get in there. Her name's Maren. Be nice." Rowan looked at himself in the rearview mirror. Tie crooked because he never wore ties anymore. Not for 4 years. And he looked exactly like a guy about to bail on a blind date he never wanted to go on in the first place. Here's the thing about losing your wife right before Christmas. It destroys every Christmas after that. Or at least Rowan thought so until Juniper started leaving notes around the house asking Santa for things like Daddy to smile again instead of toys. And it absolutely wrecked him because his kid was using her Christmas wish to try and fix her broken father. Evelyn died December 23rd, 4 years ago. Black ice on the highway, getting last-minute presents. And Rowan hadn't been able to look at Christmas the same way since. Just went through the motions so Juniper wouldn't know he was falling apart. He forced himself out of the truck because he pinky promised Juniper that morning. And Hales don't break pinky promises. Walked into a restaurant decorated within an inch of its life. Garland and lights everywhere. Christmas music playing just loud enough to remind you it's the most wonderful time of the year, even when you feel like complete garbage. The hostess said his date hadn't arrived yet, so Rowan sat at the bar and ordered a beer he didn't want while trying not to look at all the happy couples having their perfect Christmas dates. 7:15 came and went. Rowan was texting Beck. "I don't think I can do this. Feels like I'm cheating on Evelyn." And Beck wrote back, "She's been gone 4 years. She'd want you happy. Don't you dare leave." 7:20, the door opened and then a woman walked in. Shaking snow off her coat. She was a black woman with warm brown skin and natural curls pulled into a sleek bun. She looked around nervously, made eye contact with Rowan, smiled, and walked straight over. "Are you Rowan?" she asked. And Rowan said, "Yeah. Maren?" Because Beck hadn't shown him a picture. Just said, "Trust me, she's great." And the woman laughed and said, "Close enough," and sat down next to him. They started talking and it just flowed. Easy conversation like they'd known each other forever. She mentioned dealing with staffing issues at work. And Rowan relaxed and told her about Juniper playing a reindeer in the school Christmas pageant and how his daughter still believed in Christmas magic, even though Rowan wasn't sure he did anymore. The woman asked about his wife straight up. Just asked if it was okay to talk about. And Rowan appreciated that so much he almost cried right there at the bar. 4 years ago, December 23rd, car accident, getting Christmas presents. The holidays are really hard for me, but I fake it for my kid. The woman squeezed his hand and said, "Maybe you're here to find some of that magic again." And Rowan felt something unlock in his chest that had been stuck for years. They talked about grief and single parenting and how Christmas makes everything bigger. And Rowan was thinking, Beck was right. She's amazing. How did I almost skip this? 7:50. Her phone rang and she looked panicked. Said, "I'm so sorry, kitchen emergency. I have to handle this right now." And Rowan blinked because that was weird for a nurse to say. But she was already leaving. Asked for his number, said she wanted to continue the conversation. Rowan sat there feeling actual hope for the first time in forever. Texted Beck, "You were right, man, she's incredible." And Beck wrote back, "Wait, you like her? Is she still there?" And Rowan said, "Had to step away for work, but yeah, we really connected." And then Beck sent a message that made Rowan's stomach drop. "Work? Dude, Marin's a nurse. She's off tonight. What are you talking about?" Rowan looked up and saw the woman wearing a manager name tag, talking to kitchen staff, and realized with horror he'd been talking to the wrong person this entire time. Beck texted again. "Marin's car died on I-7. She's been stuck in the snow for 45 minutes trying to get there." And Rowan wanted to disappear because this was the most embarrassing moment of his entire life. He was about to leave when the front door opened and a woman stumbled in, absolutely covered in snow. She was a black woman with beautiful dark skin, hair soaked, mascara smudged, shivering hard, clutching her phone and a wet, crushed gift. And the whole restaurant went quiet because she looked like she'd walked through a blizzard. She spotted Rowan and walked over, leaving wet footprints. "Rowan, I'm Marin. I'm so sorry I'm late. My car died and I've been trying to get here for an hour. And I know this is the worst first impression. But I promised I'd be here. And I don't break promises, especially not before Christmas." She was breathless and mortified. And Rowan just stared because this woman had clearly been through hell to get here. And she was apologizing to him, a complete stranger. "You still came?" Rowan's voice came out amazed. "You could have just canceled. You look like you walked through a storm." Marin laughed, kind of hysterical. "I hitched with a trucker and walked 2 miles because my little sister's waiting to hear how this went. And I couldn't let her down. I couldn't give up because things got hard." She held out the crushed gift. "I brought you this. It's dumb, but I couldn't show up empty-handed at Christmas." Rowan unwrapped it with shaking hands, found a silver compass ornament engraved, "Find your way home." And his throat closed up because Evelyn used to say that exact phrase. The restaurant manager walked by laughing. "You must be his actual date. I'm sorry, we had a mix-up. He thought I was you. Merry Christmas." Marin looked at Rowan, confused and amused. "You thought she was me?" And Rowan felt like an idiot. "My friend didn't show me a picture. I'm sorry. Weirdest start to a date ever." Marin laughed for real. "I walked 2 miles looking like a drowned rat. We're even on weird." Rowan gave her his coat because she was shivering, got her hot chocolate, and they sat in a corner booth. He asked, "Why risk it? Why not cancel? You could have frozen out there." Marin got serious. "My sister Tessa is 14 and home alone watching Christmas movies because I'm all she has. 2 years ago, Christmas Eve, our mom died. I found her Christmas morning." Her voice cracked. "And this is Tessa's first Christmas where she's not completely broken." Rowan's heart cracked open. "She pushed me to go on this date, said I deserved something good for Christmas. And even though I was terrified, I promised her, and I don't break promises to my sister." Rowan took her hand. "My wife. December 23rd, 4 years ago. Black ice, getting presents. I don't really do Christmas anymore. Just fake it for my daughter Juniper, who still believes." Marin squeezed back. Then maybe we both needed this. 2 people scared of Christmas trying to find a reason to believe again. They talked until the restaurant closed about loss and kids and pushing through when you want to quit. And Rowan couldn't remember the last time he felt this connected to someone. When they left, the snow was still falling, and Rowan walked Marin to her Uber. She turned back. "Rowan, thank you for waiting, even when you didn't know you were waiting for me." And Rowan said, "Maren, I think you might be the Christmas miracle my daughter keeps talking about." He watched her drive away, standing in the snow, feeling something he hadn't felt in 4 years. The possibility that maybe life was about to get really good. Rowan saw Maren 3 times in the next 3 days, and every single time felt like they'd known each other their whole lives instead of 72 hours. And he kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, for her to realize he was a mess or too broken or not worth the effort. But she just kept showing up with that same fierce determination she'd had when she walked 2 miles through snow to meet him. They got coffee on the 21st, and she told him more about Tessa, about raising a teenager alone while working night shifts at the ER, about how her sister was brilliant and angry and grieving in that way 14-year-olds do, where they pretend they're fine, but they're absolutely not fine. December 22nd, they grabbed lunch between her shift and his job site. And Rowan told her about the construction company, about how he'd built it from nothing with Evelyn cheering him on. About how every December 23rd he could barely function because it was the anniversary, and Juniper didn't fully understand why Daddy got so quiet on that day. Maren reached across the table at the diner and said, "What if this year's different? What if you let someone else carry some of that weight with you?" And Rowan felt his eyes burn because nobody had offered to do that in 4 years. Everyone just said, "Let me know if you need anything," but never actually showed up. December 23rd hit Rowan like it always did. Woke up with his chest tight and his brain screaming that 4 years ago right now, Evelyn was still alive. 4 years ago at noon, she was making Juniper lunch. 4 years ago at 3 p.m., she was heading out to the store, and he was kissing her goodbye without knowing it was the last time. He almost texted Maren to cancel coming to Juniper's Christmas pageant because he wasn't sure he could hold it together. But then she texted him first, saying, "I know today's hard. Tessa and I are still coming if that's okay. You don't have to be strong for us." And Rowan just sat on his bed and cried, because how did this woman already understand him so completely? The school auditorium was packed with parents and grandparents, and everyone looked so happy and festive. And Rowan, with his dark brown skin and strong hands that had built half the buildings in Crestfall Ridge, sat there feeling like he was underwater until Maren slid into the seat next to him with Tessa trailing behind, looking like every teenage girl forced to attend an elementary school Christmas pageant. All eye rolls and crossed arms. But then Juniper came on stage in her reindeer costume, her brown skin glowing under the stage lights, dark braids decorated with silver tinsel. She spotted them in the crowd, and her entire face lit up like actual Christmas magic. And she waved so hard she nearly knocked over the kid next to her. And Tessa snorted and said, "Your kid's adorable. That's annoying." After the show, Juniper ran over and launched herself at Rowan, but her eyes were locked on Maren. "You came. Daddy said you might come, but I didn't know if you really would." And Maren knelt down in her scrubs because she'd come straight from a shift. "I promised your dad I'd be here, and I keep my promises. You were the best reindeer in the whole show." Juniper's smile could have powered the whole city. "Are you Daddy's girlfriend? Because I asked Santa for someone nice, and you seem really nice." And Rowan wanted the floor to swallow him. But Maren just laughed and said, "Your dad and I are friends, really good friends." Tessa was hanging back, looking defensive in that way kids do when they're protecting themselves. But Juniper walked right up to her and said with zero filter, "Do you like Christmas? My dad doesn't really anymore because my mom died, but I still do because I think she'd want us to be happy." And Rowan watched Tessa's entire armor crack just a little bit My mom died at Christmas too, Tessa said quietly. 2 years ago. But my sister says we get to choose if Christmas is sad forever or if we make new stuff to remember. And Juniper grabbed her hand like they'd been friends for years. Want to get hot chocolate? Daddy always takes me after my shows. They ended up at this tiny coffee shop that did candy cane hot chocolate. And Juniper and Tessa sat at their own table giggling about something on Tessa's phone, while Rowan and Maren watched from 2 tables over. Your daughter just adopted my sister in like 5 minutes, Maren said. And Rowan laughed. Juniper doesn't really do boundaries. She just decides she likes someone and that's it. You're stuck with her forever. Maren looked at him with those brown eyes that saw way too much. Sounds like someone else I know who walked through a snowstorm for a blind date. And Rowan felt his face heat up because, yeah, okay. Maybe determination ran in both their weird little found family. Christmas Eve came, and Rowan did something he hadn't done in 4 years. He invited people over, asked Maren and Tessa to spend the evening with them. And when they showed up with cookies Tessa had stress-baked at 2 in the morning, Rowan's house felt alive for the first time since Evelyn died. They decorated gingerbread houses, and Juniper got more frosting on herself than the house. Tessa pretended she was too cool for this, but kept sneaking candies onto her creation. And Maren stood next to Rowan at the counter and bumped his shoulder and said, "This is nice. This is really nice." And Rowan had to turn away because he was absolutely not going to cry in front of everyone. After the kids went to bed, Juniper in her room and Tessa crashed on the couch. Rowan and Maren sat by the Christmas tree with the lights making everything soft and golden. And Maren said, "I haven't felt this safe at Christmas in 2 years. Thank you for letting us be part of this." Rowan took her hand. 4 days ago, I was ready to skip Christmas completely. Now I'm sitting here thinking maybe it doesn't have to hurt forever. And that's because of you. They leaned in and almost kissed, but Rowan pulled back. I need to tell you something. She died exactly 4 years ago today, on her way to buy presents. I couldn't save her, and I don't know if I'm ready for this. Maren's eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. You're allowed to love her memory and still make room for something new. Those things can live together. I do it every day with my mom. Rowan felt something break open in his chest. What if I mess this up? What if I'm not ready? And Maren squeezed his hand. Then we figure it out together. That's what all of this is about, right? Not being alone in the dark anymore. Christmas morning was chaos in the best way. Juniper screaming at 6 a.m. that Santa came. Tessa groaning that it was too early, but smiling anyway. Presents everywhere. And Rowan gave Maren a silver snowflake necklace with Brave engraved on the back. She cried and said, "Rowan, this is too much." But he shook his head. You walked through a storm to meet a stranger. That's literally the definition of brave. Maren gave him a framed photo of Juniper from the pageant with words underneath that said, "Your reason to believe in magic again." And Rowan had to leave the room for a minute because his heart couldn't handle it. They kissed for the first time under the mistletoe Juniper had strategically hung everywhere, with both kids watching and giggling, and everything felt perfect and possible, and like maybe Christmas miracles were actually real. 2 days later, everything fell apart. Maren got a call December 27th about a nurse practitioner position in Solaria City. $40,000 more a year, benefits, everything she desperately needed, because Tessa's college fund was empty and they were barely surviving. She stared at her phone and felt sick because they just found this beautiful thing. And now she had to choose between the man she was falling for and her sister's entire future. Meanwhile, Rowan got news his company won the Crestfall Ridge Children's Hospital renovation 3-year contract, locked into the city. And he was planning to ask Maren to move in, to make this official, to build on the Christmas magic they'd created. New Year's Eve. They planned to celebrate together, ring in the new year as a family. But Maren told him about Solaria City over dinner at the same restaurant where they met, and Rowan's face just crumbled. Solaria City? Maren? We just found each other. That's across the country. And his voice cracked on the words. I know. Maren's eyes were filling with tears. But Tessa needs this. I can't choose my happiness over her future. She comes first. Rowan felt panic rising. What about Juniper? She's already calling you Maren Mom. She thinks Christmas magic is real because of you. How do I tell her you're leaving? Maren was crying now. You think this doesn't kill me? But I'm her guardian. I have responsibilities. You have Juniper and your business here. I have Tessa and no choice. They left it broken and messy, both crying in the parking lot while snow fell around them like some kind of cruel joke. 2 weeks of silence hit harder than Rowan expected. Juniper asking every single day, when is Maren coming over? Did I do something wrong? And Rowan having to say, she has to move away for work, honey, while his daughter's face crumpled. Juniper looked at him with 8-year-old wisdom and said, but you love her. I know you do. Why aren't you fighting for her? And Rowan didn't have an answer that made sense. Tessa texted him one night. She cries herself to sleep every night. She loves you, but she won't choose herself over me. I don't know what to do. January 18th, a massive snowstorm hit Crestfall Ridge. Worst one in 20 years. And Rowan was at the office when his phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. Mr. Hale, this is Principal Wilder. Juniper's school bus broke down on Hollowcrest Pass. The kids are safe but stranded. We're waiting for emergency services, but they're overwhelmed. Rowan's entire world stopped. He grabbed his keys, ran to his truck, turned the ignition, and got nothing. Battery dead from the cold. And he just stood there in the snow, having a full panic attack because his daughter was stranded on a mountain in a blizzard and he couldn't get to her. He called 911. They said 4-hour wait minimum. Everyone was stranded. And Rowan felt like he was dying because Juniper was alone and scared, and it was snowing just like the night Evelyn died, and he couldn't breathe. His hands were shaking so bad he could barely type. But he texted Maren, even though they hadn't spoken in 2 weeks. Juniper's stranded on Hollowcrest Pass. School bus broke down. I can't drive in this. My truck won't start. I don't know what to do. 3 minutes that felt like 3 years passed before his phone lit up with her name. And when he answered, she just said, send me the location. I'm coming to get you right now. Maren showed up at Rowan's house 20 minutes later in her beat-up pickup truck with the engine running and her hands already shaking on the wheel. And Rowan ran out into the snow and saw her face through the windshield, pale and terrified, because she hadn't driven in snow since her mom died. Hadn't even tried. But here she was anyway. He yanked open the passenger door and she said, get in. Before he could thank her or ask if she was okay or tell her she didn't have to do this. And her voice was steady even though her whole body was shaking. You don't have to do this, Rowan said while putting on his seatbelt. You're terrified of driving in snow. Your mom died in winter. You're supposed to leave for Solaria City in 2 weeks. You don't owe us anything. Maren's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, and she looked at him with eyes that were already wet. Juniper needs us, and I made her a promise on Christmas that I'd always show up when it mattered. Now tell me where we're going, because I'm not letting that little girl sit on a mountain alone thinking nobody's coming for her. They drove through the worst blizzard Rowan had seen in years. And Marin was crying, but she didn't stop, didn't slow down, just kept going while Rowan navigated and talked her through every turn. "You're doing amazing, just like you did on December 20th when you walked 2 miles to meet me. You're the bravest person I've ever known." And Marin laughed, but it came out shaky. "I'm literally having a panic attack right now. But yeah, sure, let's call it brave." The roads were terrible. Visibility maybe 20 feet, other cars in ditches. And Rowan watched this woman face her absolute worst nightmare because his daughter needed her. They reached the bus 45 minutes later and saw 15 kids pressed against the windows, including Juniper. And the second Juniper spotted Rowan's face, she burst into tears of relief. Emergency vehicles were just arriving, and Rowan helped get kids transferred while Marin stayed with Juniper, wrapped her in blankets, checked her over with nurse instincts. And Juniper clung to her, saying, "You came. You came. I knew you'd come." Over and over. The drive home was silent, except for Juniper's breathing from the back seat, where she'd fallen asleep wrapped in Rowan's coat. All three of them shaking from adrenaline and cold and relief. Back at Rowan's house, with Juniper asleep on the couch, buried under blankets, Rowan and Marin just stood in the kitchen, staring at each other. "You drove through your worst fear for my daughter." Rowan's voice cracked. "You faced the thing that's terrified you for 2 years because Juniper needed you." Marin was still shaking. "Of course I did. I love you. I love her. That doesn't just disappear because I'm moving to Solaria City." Rowan felt something break. "Then don't go. Please don't go. Stay here. We'll figure out the money somehow. We'll make it work." "It's not that simple." Marin's voice rose and then dropped because Juniper was sleeping. "Tessa needs college money. She needs stability. I can't just choose what I want over what she needs. I've been doing this for 2 years. I can't stop now." Rowan stepped closer. "What about what you need? You've spent 2 years putting everyone first. When do you get to choose yourself? When do you get to say, 'I want this and I'm allowed to have it'?" Marin broke down completely. "I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to be the person who picks love over responsibility." The front door opened, and Tessa walked in because she'd been in the truck the whole time, had come with Marin and waited while they rescued Juniper. And she looked at her sister with teenage exasperation mixed with love. "I got into University of Crestfall Ridge, full academic scholarship. I found out Christmas Day and didn't tell you because you were too busy trying to sacrifice your entire life for me." Marin's mouth fell open. "What? Tessa? That's incredible. Why didn't you say anything?" Tessa's eyes were wet. "Because you've been a martyr for 2 years, and I'm sick of it. I don't need Solaria City. I need you to be happy for once in your life. And Rowan makes you happy. Juniper makes you happy. So stop acting like loving them means you're abandoning me." Juniper woke up from the couch and padded over in her blanket. "Are we going to be a family? Now? Because that's what I asked Santa for." And all 4 of them were crying and somehow laughing at the same time. 2 days later, Rowan showed up at Marin's apartment with a manila folder and determination written all over his face. "I got the hospital contract. 3-year renovation project, starts in March." And Marin said, "Rowan, that's amazing." But he wasn't done talking. "They require an on-site occupational health nurse for worker safety. It's a real position, $85,000 a year plus benefits, and we can negotiate a college fund contribution for Tessa as part of the package." Marin stared at him. "You created a job for me?" "I created a job we actually need." Rowan's hands were shaking. "Hospital construction projects require medical staff. You're an ER nurse and the most qualified person I know. This isn't charity. This is me fighting for you the only way I know how. You drove through a blizzard for Juniper. Let me do this." Marin was crying again. "This is real? Like actually real?" Rowan showed her the contract with her name already filled in. "Real as you walking 2 miles in snow to meet a stranger. Real as you facing your trauma to save my kid. I want you to stay, but only if you want to. No pressure, even if you don't want us." Marin kissed him hard enough that he stumbled backward. "I want the job, and I want us. And I want to stop being terrified of choosing happiness." And Rowan held her like she might disappear if he let go. 6 months passed like a dream. Marin and Tessa got a house 3 streets over because they were taking it slow but committed. Sunday dinners became tradition with all 4 of them. Juniper and Tessa became actual best friends despite the age gap. And Rowan woke up every morning amazed that his life had gone from surviving to actually living. December 20th came around again, 1 year exactly since the night they met. And Rowan took everyone to the ice skating rink because Juniper had been begging. They were sitting on a bench watching the girls skate when Juniper came over and said with zero subtlety, "Marin, when are you and Daddy getting married? Because Tessa said you're probably going to, and I want to be a flower girl." Tessa skated up looking mortified. "Juniper, you can't just ask people that." But Marin was laughing and looking at Rowan. "I don't know, Juniper. Has your dad asked me?" Rowan dropped to one knee right there on the ice and pulled out a ring he'd been carrying for 3 weeks, waiting for the right moment. "I was waiting for perfect timing, but every moment with you is perfect. You showed me that courage isn't not being afraid. It's doing the hard thing anyway. You drove through a storm for my daughter. You walked 2 miles through snow to keep a promise. Marin, will you marry me? Will you let us be your family forever?" Marin was ugly, crying and nodding. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." And Juniper screamed loud enough that the whole rink stopped skating to stare. A year later, they got married at the Silver Lantern Grill on December 20th, the same place where they met. Small ceremony with just family and close friends. And Suri, the manager who Rowan had accidentally talked to that first night, catered the whole thing and kept laughing about the mix-up. Beck gave a speech about how Rowan tried to cancel and Marin almost didn't make it. But somehow they found each other anyway, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. Marin's vows destroyed everyone. "You taught me I don't have to choose between love and responsibility, that I can have both, that choosing myself doesn't mean abandoning the people I love." And Rowan's vows were just as bad. "You drove through a storm for my daughter before you even really knew us. I promise to be your safe place in every storm that comes." Juniper and Tessa were co-maids of honor, arguing about who got to hold the rings. The reception ended with snow falling outside the windows, and Rowan and Marin stood watching it without fear for the first time in years. "Remember when you walked 2 miles in this stuff to meet me?" Rowan said, and Marin laughed. "Best terrible decision I ever made. Remember when you thought I was the restaurant manager?" They kissed while their daughters made gagging noises behind them, and everything was exactly as chaotic and perfect as it should be. Sometimes the date you think is ending is actually just beginning. Sometimes the person who shows up late is exactly on time. And sometimes courage looks like walking through a blizzard, or creating a job, or letting someone love you when you've convinced yourself you don't deserve it. Rowan thought the blind date was over before it started. Marin thought she'd never be able to choose herself. They were both wrong. Love isn't about perfect timing or perfect circumstances. It's about showing up even when you're terrified. It's about quiet courage, It's about finding someone in the darkness and bringing each other safely home.